Hi little skeletons, it is Disney Queen Skele here. Welcome back to the true crime stories of my channel. I don't know how I would have started that. Anyway, so today's true crime is going to be about the state of California, my home state. I've been doing the 50 states true crimes for a while now. That's what started the true crime series on my channel. So we're just going to continue with those. So today we're doing California. Hope you enjoy. California, Jeffrey Toobin, American heiress. The wild saga of the kidnapping, crimes, and trial of Patty Hearst. Was Patricia Hearst responsible for her crimes, or was she a victim who did what she needed to do to survive? Or is the truth somewhere in between? Toobin uses his knowledge of the justice system and his examination of the evidence to pierce the veil of spectacle and make sense of many contradictory elements. American Heiress, The Wild Saga of the Kidnapping, Crimes, and Trial of Patty Hearst by Jeffrey Toobin. Illustrated 371 pp. Doubleday 28.95. Captivity tales fascinate us because they challenge our fantasy of self-determination from fictional representations like John Wayne's reaction to Natalie Wood living as a Comanche at the end of The Searchers, to the real-life POW Jeremiah Denton blinking his Morse code defiance on television, to Elizabeth Smart's possible bonding with her captor. We wonder, what would we do or become in such circumstances? Perhaps the captivity story that has fascinated us the most is the 1974 kidnapping of Patty Hearst, the subject of Jeffrey Toobin's terrifically engrossing new book, American Heiress. The brief outline of the events will be familiar to many. Hearst was taken from her Berkeley apartment by the Symbionese Liberation Army, or SLA, a tiny slogan-drunk band of revolutionaries so obsessed with guns and publicity that they seem almost satirized. After being held in a closet and haphazardly coached in guerrilla warfare and revolutionary theory, Hearst declared in a notorious message delivered in a mesmerizing combination of breathy rich girl dictation and pigeon Marxist jargon that she was now Tanya, and that she had not been brainwashed and that her captors had offered to let her go, but I have chosen to stay and fight. She then helped to rob banks, in which one bystander died, and plant bombs until she was apprehended in 1975. In custody, she claimed that all of her crimes were committed under duress. Her lawyer, F. Lee Bailey, built his defense on the argument that she had acted out of coercive persuasion. Stockholm Syndrome was not yet a common concept. She was found guilty and served nearly 2 years of her sentence before President Carter commuted it to time served. Was Patricia Hearst responsible for her crimes, or was she a victim who did what she needed to do to survive? Or is the truth somewhere in between? The story has been the subject of many books. Some dozen are listed by Toobin. Also inspired by the case, 2 novels, Trance by Christopher Sorrentino and American Woman by Suzanne Choi, a feature film, several documentaries, and at least 2 porn movies and an episode of Drunk History. Hearst herself wrote a book, yet the questions remain unresolved, which is one reason for Toobin to investigate. Another is that he sees the episode as a kind of trailer for the modern world in terms of celebrity culture, the media, and criminal justice. As in his earlier book, The Run of His Life, The People vs. O.J. Simpson, Toobin uses his knowledge of the justice system and his examination of the evidence to pierce the veil of spectacle and make sense of many contradictory elements. For his research, Toobin drew heavily on the extensive materials about all the SLA-related trials compiled by Bill Harris, himself a former member of the group. The collection includes information gathered through private investigation, some of it not duplicated in the FBI files on the case. Toobin presents his account chronologically, but inserts backstories of the players and asides on the volatile cultural cross-currents of the time. The wake of Vietnam and Watergate, the congressional hearings on the FBI and the CIA, zebra killings that terrorized San Francisco, and gas shortages and assassination attempts. He also addresses the spectacle itself, particularly the sensationalized artifacts generated by the media-obsessed SLA. The Polaroid of Hearst in a beret holding an M1 carbine, the communiques, the security camera images of the bank robbery. His particulate telling is measured and understood, which is the right approach to such a high mannerist American extravaganza: guns, sex, money, plus audio. The book's real power comes from Toobin's ability to convincingly and economically evoke a broad range of people. He makes Patricia Hearst's father, Randy Hearst, sympathetic, describing how he transformed from an overfed plutocrat whose cosseted existence could scarcely differ more from the kidnappers into someone who listened closely to anyone who might help find his daughter, including inmates at nearby Vacaville prison. It fell on Randy because the various law enforcement agencies bungled things throughout. He was against confronting the SLA, which was the right instinct. The experience brought out a humility in Randy who, Tubin writes, acted out of his curiosity, his decency, and above all, his love for his daughter. Tubin even shows compassion for the SLA, their munitions fetish, their inexplicable assassination of Oakland's black superintendent of schools, and their delusions about being the vanguard of a revolution show them to be perverse and foolish. But as Tubin presents their individual stories, they become human-shaped and sad. Their origins in the prison liberation movement led to a tragic case of metastasized good intentions. Most of them got killed in a horrific shootout which the ever-ready Los Angeles Police Department may be dictated simply by their DNA aggression, not patience fueled in the LA cops. The description of that event, which was the biggest police shootout in American history and was carried on television across the country, is shocking and definitive. Other people get Tubin's disdain, and it brings out his wittiest writing. About Hearst's fiancé, Stephen Weed, who published a quickie book during the ordeal, if there was one point of the anonymity among the protagonists in the kidnapping, including the Hearst family, the FBI, even the SLA, and eventually the public, it was contempt for Patricia's erstwhile fiancé about F. Lee Bailey making her sign a release for his book, which he had already sold. It speaks to Bailey's rugged concern for himself that he would confront a client facing 35 years on an SLA general's rush to issue communique. Like approximately no one else on Earth, Bill thought the world needed to hear what the surviving members of the SLA thought. As for Patty Hearst herself, Tubin treats her as a person, not a tabloid phantasm. He writes, "The threat of death hung over Patricia. Even though she was only a teenager, she faced her situation with her courage and intelligence. She didn't panic or collapse." Hearst wouldn't speak with him, so Tubin gets her point of view from her book, her statements, and his interviews with others who interacted with her. As he explains in his author's note, when the evidence about her behavior and feelings is contradictory, he addresses it in the text and makes his conclusions in good faith. He sides with Hearst when she says she was raped by SLA'er Willie Wolfe. Former SLA members deny this because their revolutionary feminism would never allow rape. Tubin points out that after someone is kidnapped and held blindfolded in a closet, sex can't be consensual. He suggests that eventually Hearst formed a bond with Wolfe. He also claims that Hearst fell in love with another SLA member, Stephen Solia, which she denies. Tubin uncovers newly found secret letters written to Solia from Hearst after she was arrested, and therefore not coerced. In them, her love seems unequivocal and passionate both for him and for the revolutionary cause. Tubin's take on Hearst's state of mind is credible because he doesn't pretend clarity where there is none. On the big question of whether her actions were of her own volition or after her kidnapping, there was conflicted evidence. At first, she acted out of duress, which was traumatized. She was traumatized in a number of profound ways. But as time went on, Tubin shows she embraced the SLA cause. Patricia would make the same choice again and again to remain with her comrades and avoid law enforcement. Were her actions voluntary during the bank robbery she was convicted of? That seems doubtful. But later, when she had a chance to escape during another robbery, she instead shot 33 rounds and saved her comrades from arrest. And in the following months, she made choices and committed crimes that reflected her conversion from victim to perpetrator. What is also true, however, is that none of that would have occurred if she hadn't been kidnapped in the first place. So should she have been held responsible? Tubin doesn't condemn her for what she did. She converted to the SLA to survive, and then after being arrested, converted back to being a Hearst to survive. But he does condemn her sense of grievance and of entitlement when she campaigned for a presidential pardon, even though her sentence had already been commuted. He points out how unjust it is that she succeeded. Patricia Hearst was a woman who through no fault of her own, fell in with bad people but then did bad things. She committed crimes, lots of them. If the United States were a country that routinely forgave the trespasses of such people, there would be little remarkable about the mercy she received following her conviction. But the prisons teem with convicts who were also led astray and who committed lesser crimes than Patricia. These unfortunate souls have no chance at even a single act of clemency, such much less and unprecedented too. Rarely have the benefits of wealth, power, and renown been as clear as they were in the aftermath of Patricia's conviction. In the end, Tupin returns to the specific mystery of Patricia Hearst, whom he finds fascinating, even when incredible. Now an establishment matron, attending dog shows with all evidence of Tania seemingly erased, she remains complex, capable of simultaneously being a sincere convert to her surroundings and a savvy protector of her own interest. So thank you guys so much for watching this true crime episode on California. I feel like I've heard of this person once before, but I can't quite remember. And I'm glad this one was actually a little bit of a longer read, because I know most of my true crimes have been no more than like 2, 3, 4 minutes. So it was nice to actually get like a full length video out to you guys about true crime. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you've actually heard of this case, let me know your comments about it in the description box below, or in the comment section down below, my apologies. But other than that, I will see you guys next time. Bye, little skeletons. Stay safe, and I love you guys.